Ukrainian forces have driven back the Russians from the Serebryansky forest area. This is looking less and less like small tactical counterattacks and more like a larger counteroffensive. Just what exactly is Ukraine trying to do here? Is this really part of a larger return to the offense by Ukraine? And just why here? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's talk about it. Okay, so this is really an unexpected update today, and that is that the only change to the front line has actually been Ukrainian forces driving Russians back near the Serebryansky forest area. And when you zoom out, you can see that over the last maybe 72 hours, there's been some significant changes right here in this kind of canal river system north on the northern bank of the Donets River. You can see that here we go about 24 hours ago, we saw a small sort of change as a different area was listed as contested. And then you're seeing Ukrainian forces come in and seize control of this entire kind of, I'm going to say the western half of this small river system here. And this is not an extensive offensive action. But what's interesting is when you combine it with several other offensive actions that we've seen over the last couple days, right here taking us to the 14th of this month, you can see Ukrainian forces driving the Russians back here in this corner of the Serebryansky forest. You can see then a few days later, you get Ukrainian forces, there you go, driving the Russians, actually this was just 3 days ago, driving the Russians out back from Terny and Yampolivka. Again, as we talked about, these are not extensive drives, but what they likely are is moving into more advantageous positions. And then again, we're seeing a few days later, Ukrainian forces attack and hold, seize and hold more territory here near the Donetsk River bank. So we're going to talk about, actually, there's some pretty good detailed reporting over just how this operation went. But first, of course, if you guys are looking for your boost to take what you need out of the day, you don't have to launch a big offensive. You just need some Strike Gum. Strike Gum, 90 milligrams of caffeine in every single piece, 100 milligrams of alpha GPC. It's superior to an energy drink in every way. Just as much caffeine, but none of the sugar, and it's not $4 a pop. So in this little pack, there's the equivalent of 5 energy drinks. So if you're somebody who likes them, or maybe you work in a role where you can't walk around with a Red Bull in your hand, well, that's what Strike Gum is for. You pop it, you chew it, you get that caffeine rush, but you don't have the sugar crash afterward, and you don't walk around with a can, right? Your hands stay free. So that's perfect for if you're in any kind of role like that. So check it out. Strike Gum is available on strikegum.com. That's where you can get your discounts. You also have, of course, we have the individual packs if you just want to try it out. We got the trays if you know you love it and you're looking for the best deal. And we got the 5-pack, which kind of, threads the needle between the two, where you can get a pack in your gym bag, a pack in your glove box, a pack in your office, and a pack at your home office. So check it out at Strike Gum, or of course at Amazon, where you can just search for Strike Gum on Amazon, or the link is in the description. Check it out. Okay, now let's talk about exactly how this offensive went down. And this is per the Euromaidan press, which is usually pretty good about their reporting, even if they are pretty they're very pro-Ukrainian, but that gives them the scoop on these kind of stories, right? And actually, this is part of a campaign, according to this reporting, where the Russian efforts, right, to push the Ukrainians up against this looks like the Zerabets reservoir system here, that the Ukrainians are trying to push back against this kind of gradual Russian offensive by these motor rifle brigades, where they're trying to push them up against this area here near Terny and Yampolivka. That's why the first action was this counterattack, I believe. But then Ukraine realized that they have to put more pressure on the Russian forces, right? You can see here, eliminating the threat, right? Russia, of course, conducting infantry assaults with artillery support on these Ukrainian forest positions. Ukrainians maintain an active defense, as we talked about, pushing back against Russian forces, but primarily using raids, day and night raids, and other sort of operations to kind of break up the Russian forces, but not to actually seize territory, right? Now, the Russians have created an extensive network of strongholds, which the Euromaiden's describing as trench networks, sort of dense clusters of well-developed trenches surrounded by smaller kind of mini trenches, foxholes, and dugouts, right? So these thick tree belts don't allow for the big maneuver elements, meaning that this kind of layered, or it sounds like almost like a hub and spoke defensive network can be very, very powerful and very hard to dislodge, right? So Ukrainian commanders realized that they needed to, as we talked about, shift the front line to a more favorable position, right? There's a more efficient defense. And a specific Russian stronghold was called, codenamed Dragonfly. In NATO parlance, we'd call it Objective Dragonfly. And it would, again, they're saying it would significantly boost Ukrainian defensive potential. And if we look here, let's see if we can identify what we think that this Dragonfly would be. So it's likely this here, this trench network. Again, I'm not entirely sure why. It may literally be a trench network that Ukraine just wants to have. They want you, like Russia may have built it into something very desirable. But I sort of suspect this may be what that stronghold is. I wonder if I can get some satellite imagery here. Let's see if we can look on Google Maps for the Serebryansky forest in Ukraine. Here we go. Let's see. And give me this. Okay. All right. We got this pulled up here. And let's see if we can just zoom it out a bit. Okay. And we're just going to try to compare little apples to oranges here, right? Try to triangulate where exactly this is taking place. So here is the Serebryansky town. Here's Hyrohivka. So if you go due north from the dead center of Hyrohivka, you get to that. Okay. So let's see if we can find it here. Where is Hyrohivka? Due north, just beyond this. So I suspect that what this trench network may be is one of these, maybe these clearings where there's good free fire area, or possibly there may be some kind of, like these clearings, and then there may also be a level of, let's see. Yeah, I think it's probably clearings. It may also be elevated. So if you have like a clearing at elevation, that can be pretty utilitarian for this kind of effort. According to Google, this map data is current as of 2024. So it should have whatever's going on with these Russian forces. Again, I kind of suspect that what we're seeing is again, in all likelihood, unless it's something like this, a military cemetery, which is out here. So it's not clear what exactly is this favorable defensive network, unless there's some kind of elevation change that one of these positions will give Ukraine oversight of a region, or if it's possible that just kind of seizing this territory will prevent Russia from getting oversight on them. But in any case, the job of taking this was apparently assigned to the 12th Brigade of Azov, right, where a number of 36 platoon-sized assault groups were tasked with taking portions of Objective Dragonfly, right? According to this report, again, nobody's going to say morale was low, but They did note that soldiers in the battalion really were ready to go back on the offensive against Russia, and there were a lot of volunteers. The thing is, when you're fighting this defensive fight and you're not really seizing back territory and you're just retreating, it can be demoralizing, and Ukraine has kind of been in this retreat mode for months. You can see here that the objective they're seizing, even from some of this footage, is pretty densely forested. So really interesting stuff. But you can see that, according to the reports, Ukrainians brought in a tank which was able to suppress Russian forces for a time, but the tank was pretty quickly knocked out by a Russian anti-tank weapon. But it did its job enough, allowing the Ukrainian forces to get into the trenches and clear the Russians out. In a post-attack interview, the platoon commander who led the assault said that after the Russians realized they lost the stronghold, they started dropping shells intensely on it, trying to cover their retreat. And that Russians maintain a significant advantage in artillery ammunition and can shell Ukrainians extensively, but that in direct engagements, Ukrainians have the upper hand, likely because their infantry troops are better equipped and it seems like better trained. And this was part of this article describes the fact that Ukrainians took their time with this assault operation. They conducted extensive reconnaissance of the trenches so that they went in with a really detailed understanding of exactly what they were going to see and what they could expect. And once, again, this is something that if you look at like those, the Navy SEAL, Special Forces, direct action guys, this is how they operate. They do a lot of satellite reconnaissance. They have a really good understanding of the terrain before they ever set foot in it. And it's likely that the Azov soldiers did the exact same thing, extensively reconnoitering the area with a really, really sophisticated plan, which allowed them to seize, again, this limited objective, but you're talking about a significant change to the battlefield achieved in large part by just, 36 soldiers with, of course, a pretty extensive support network. Anyway, guys, that is all I had. Thank you so much to the Colonel tier members of Combat Vet News. And be sure to tune in. I'm going to be on a podcast with Jake Bro and other Ukrainian YouTubers here coming up later today. So be sure to tune in to that. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.